Hey guys, David here, and I'm doing my spoiler discussion of Iron Man 3. I figured that enough time has gone by for you guys, for the majority of you that have not seen Iron Man 3, to have watched Iron Man 3. If you do not care for spoilers, or if you have already seen the movie, then feel free to watch. If you haven't seen the movie, then please be sure to check it out and then come back and watch this video. So I'm gonna go ahead and try my best to not re-review the movie, not go into any tangents that I've already gone through in the review. Maybe I'll reference back to some things in the review, but I'm not exactly gonna redo the review again. And I'm just going to talk about things that I couldn't talk about before that had to do with spoilers. So I'm just going to hit the main bullet points of what I wanted to talk about in that video. Starting off with the big one that everybody talks about, and I'm pretty sure that I'm going to echo some people's opinions when I say this, and that is of course the Mandarin. Basically they pulled a Batman Begins and decided to make the Mandarin not real by having him being played by Travis Slattery, a actor from the streets who was on drugs and was offered even more drugs to take the job. Personally, I loved the idea. When I first saw that, I just smiled and laughed my ass off because I thought that that was really clever. Now granted, somebody made a point saying that I don't know what's the point of making the Mandarin not real if they couldn't just simply establish him as as the real Mandarin having mystical powers, since they've already established that this is the universe where you got Thor, you got Hulk, and mainly Thor, because you got Thor, who's a Nordic god, along with Loki and Odin, also Nordic gods, coming into our world. So it doesn't exactly make total sense for the Mandarin to not be real. But my argument to that would be that it's not about making the Mandarin sensical in this universe, because they obviously can, but simply just to say, hey, we got enough villains, we're gearing up for Avengers 2, we don't want the Mandarin, to team up with Thanos if Thanos ends up being truly the villain for Avengers 2. So they kind of wrote him off in that sense. And honestly, I thought it worked, and like I said, I loved the idea at first, but then after spending a few minutes with the idea on screen, I kind of receded back a little bit and said to myself, okay, I really like the idea. Mainly because in the combination of Ben Kingsley's performance and or Shane Black's direction and or the writing, I thought that Travis Slattery came off as a little cartoonish. Not saying that the Mandarin wasn't already cartoonish in and of himself with the way that he was talking. So that made me take a step back and say, I like the idea. And personally, I thought that when Killian says that you want the Mandarin, you're looking at him or something like that, I always thought that he was being figurative. So not to say that there was a real Mandarin, there was never a real Mandarin to begin with. And I went along with it. Next would have to be Pepper Potts. I really enjoyed the fact that she got more to do, kind of like Happy Hogan got more to do. I mean, he was very beneficial to the plot. I like that Pepper Potts got to wear the suit, got some superpowers, but I wasn't a fan that she didn't want the powers, and she ended up having those powers being taken away from her at the very end. I mean, Gwyneth Paltrow was complaining about, Pepper Potts not doing a whole lot in the first two Iron Man movies except saying, oh, Tony, you. So her getting powers made her so proactive, and not to mention kind of hot. So her, taking that away, she's kind of going back to the way she was. So does that mean that Gwyneth Paltrow is going to be back in Iron Man 4? Should she come back along with Robert Downey Jr.? I mean, I know right now they're going through those, negotiation type deals in terms of monetary transactions. But basically, I'm not saying that her wanting the powers to go away, wanting the extremists out of her, didn't make any sense, because she could explode. I understand that she can explode at any second, but I kind of prefer that maybe she kept it. I mean, her body did accept it, so I don't see her blowing up anytime soon. Maybe she would have been able to learn how to control it and be able to become Rescue eventually. Which leads me to my other gripe, and that is, in my review I said that Tony does something at the end of the movie that made me, question a particular element of logic to the Iron Man trilogy, and that is Tony taking out the arc reactor out of his chest along with the shrapnel that it was keeping away. Why did he not do that before 2 movies ago? Now granted, I am a firm believer that he can still be Iron Man without the arc reactor. He doesn't need the arc reactor to power up the suit. He doesn't need it to power up the repulsor ray that he's got going on right here in his chest, so he can still be Iron Man. But again, why couldn't he just do it before? And what is this going to mean for future Iron Man movies? Is this a sure sign that Robert Downey Jr. may not be Tony Stark in the next Iron Man movie, And could we be seeing a reboot? It paves the way for a new design of the character to take hold of the next Iron Man movie. Now that he doesn't have the excuse me. Now that he doesn't have the arc reactor in his chest, so that could mean possibly that. And I think that's pretty much it. Other than that, last but not least, the end credit scene. I'm not gonna lie, I was one of those people that said, "That's it." But then when I actually started to walk out of the theater, I thought to myself, you know, the Avengers wasn't an official thing when you saw that scene at the end credits of Iron Man. So to see this scene not, be as, as meaningful as having, the next villain for Avengers 2, or having, somebody's, weapon or something like that, like they did in Iron Man 2 with Thor's hammer. I understood that they did that because, first of all, Joss Whedon is not done with the Avengers 2 script, so there's no way that they can put in some sort of plot hint in here to say this is what's going to happen in Avengers 2. What they were able to do, however, is to say that an Avengers 2 is a little more formidable, since now we got this little end credit scene between Tony Stark and Bruce Banner, and the revelation that Tony Stark was narrating, not only narrating the entire movie, but he was basically telling Bruce Banner all his complications and his thoughts and everything as if he was his therapist. I like that because for two reasons. One, it was a very nice gag and a nod to people who have been keeping up with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But I believe Joss Whedon, I'm paraphrasing here, I believe Joss Whedon said that he wanted to get more personal with Avengers 2. He didn't want it to be bigger. He didn't want bigger explosions, more characters, more grandiose. He wants it to get a little more personal. There's probably going to be some deaths involved. And so I believe that's a very strong formula for a very strong sequel, to have things be more personal so that he can, whether you like it or not, so he can tug on your heartstrings and make the sequel much more emotional and therefore better than the first one. So, in my opinion, I think it's a little clever that the end credit scene showed that Tony and Bruce are becoming better friends. I mean, it's obvious that Tony is trusting Bruce with his problems. Now, granted, it doesn't mean that Bruce is fully capable of realizing these problems and be able to help him as a psychiatrist would, like he mentioned in the clip. But the fact that Tony and Bruce are still best buddies, I'm not saying this is for sure, but it could hint at the possibility of something happening between them in Avengers 2, something that is personal and very detrimental. Could be, who knows? But I thought that that's a nice little stepping stone for the possibility of what the direction of Avengers 2 can take in terms of that darker tone and that much more personal tone. Other than that, I don't feel like there's anything else that I can remark upon the spoilers of Iron Man 3, except for the fact that the guy who played Savin, when he had that parachute and he was powering up with the extremes inside him, did anybody else think of Cole from Infamous? Just me? Okay. Other than that, that's pretty much it. Let me know what you guys thought of Iron Man 3. Let me know what you guys thought of everything that I talked about in this video. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care.